It's Monday, April 29th, and I'm your host, Paula Hersey. On Barnstable Today, we learn more about the work at Children's Cove, a special story of collaboration to give an Osprey family a new home at Centerville Elementary. Now for a look at municipal and legislative news. Starting April 30th, the Town of Barnstable Department of Public Works contractor will be performing a sewer improvement project on Pleasant Street between Main Street and South Street, Main Street between Yarmouth Road and Center Street between Willow Avenue and Main Street. Work will include camera inspections of the existing sewer infrastructure, cleaning of the existing sewer pipes, and relining of the existing sewer. All work will be performed at night between 10:30 p.m. and 5 a.m. Construction is anticipated to be ongoing for 2 to 3 nights a week for approximately 3 weeks as weather allows. April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month and recognizes the importance of families and communities working together to prevent child abuse and neglect, and promotes the social and emotional well-being of children and families. During the month of April and throughout the year, communities are encouraged to increase awareness and provide education and support to families through resources and strategies to prevent child abuse and neglect. We spent some time with the Children's Cove to better understand how we can help stop child abuse in our community. We're here at the Children's Cove, and I'm with
Jacob Stapleton. I'm the Community Education and Outreach Coordinator at Children's Cove.
So tell us a little bit about how Children's Cove was formed and why the agency is necessary.
So Children's Cove has been in existence since 1997. It was part of a partnership on a children's task force taking place at Barnstable County, and so we're a Barnstable County organization. And what we are is we're the Child Advocacy Center for the Cape and the Islands. We work collaboratively with partners in law enforcement, the District Attorney's Office, as well as the Department of Children and Families for the comprehensive investigation and best practice response to cases of child sexual abuse, severe physical abuse, witness to domestic violence, and commercial sexual exploitation of children.
Why is this agency necessary?
It's necessary because child abuse and child sexual abuse is an epidemic in our country. Nationally, 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before they're 18 years old. And only about 10% of children who've experienced abuse ever disclose abuse in their lifetime.
What are some of the programs and services that you offer here?
We partner with law enforcement, DCF, and the DA's office as a part of that investigative process, as really the best practice. Without child advocacy centers, child victims would often be interviewed by as many as 5 to 8 different people and interviewed 8 to 11 times. And unfortunately, even after all of that interview process without child advocacy centers, a child in their non-offending family would often be left on their own to identify what supports and services are available to them. Whereas at Children's Cove, we really work to maximize the amount of information needed for investigators, but minimize the trauma to that child by really trying to only have one interview. After that interview, that's when we can coordinate supportive services for that child and their entire non-offending family through family advocacy, mental health coordination for services and support for clinical individuals. We have a pediatric sexual assault nurse examiner, a family nurse practitioner on site to be able to provide coordinated comprehensive medical care as needed or indicated, or at least coordinating with their pediatrician. And then my role is community education, awareness, and professional training to be able to provide this information out to the community.
So let's talk a little bit about the law enforcement and how that circle is closed. So the crime is obviously reported, and then walk us through that report and then to getting to you and how we close the loop back to law enforcement.
Yeah, so when a child does make a disclosure, and there's a number of ways that that can happen. Sometimes it's a very mild disclosure. It may be almost indirect. There may be a lot of suspicion. A mandated reporter may say something, or there may be a direct disclosure which gets to that point of reporting, either to the Department of Children and Families or to law enforcement. When that disclosure gets to either of those agencies and it involves child sexual abuse, severe physical abuse, witness to domestic violence, or human trafficking, commercial sexual exploitation of children, they contact us. because the process that we have here is really there to offer a streamlined, neutral location that's child-friendly, that allows that child to be able to come in and meet with a forensic interviewer to have that conversation, to get all of the information that's needed for that investigation, doing so in a developmentally appropriate way, but that's also forensically sound. And that interview is observed by that multidisciplinary team, our family advocate, our mental health coordinator, medical provider, as well as partners in law enforcement. They're detectives or sexual assault investigators, and if it involves either a caregiver or an organization that had responsibility for the child, that DCF investigator is also going to be observing. So they'll be able to get the information that they need as a part of that process, instead of all of those people having to question that child.
So it seems, Cape Cod's a nice place, right? Mm-hmm. So why do we have this epidemic? And it's not mm-hmm. just in the country, it's everywhere.
Yes.
So where does Children's Cove kind of fit in to get people to disclose this? It's a very sensitive subject. So, I'm thinking more of parents that might suspect something, or a teacher who might suspect something. How does that happen?
Yeah. So child sexual abuse happens everywhere. It affects every demographic, every socioeconomic level, every gender, every race, every creed. It knows no bounds. The real challenge that we have nationally and that we have as an organization is breaking through that stigma of not talking about child sexual abuse. I feel that there's a lot of conversations that take place about issues that need awareness, and unfortunately sometimes child sexual abuse isn't talked about because it's a scary topic. 90% of offenders are somebody that a child knows and trusts. And if it's not a member of the family, it's somebody that the family knows as well. That's a really difficult issue for people to come to terms with. It's a scary thought. However, this is where we believe that community education, training, information sharing, and being able to talk about these issues, this is what's going to make that change. This is why one of our main taglines is have the conversation. Have the conversation with children about body safety. These conversations can start early and they can happen often, and they're often not really that intimidating as people seem to think that they are. It's not full-fledged conversations about sex or the birds and the bees or any of that. It's just simply, how would you have a conversation with a child about any manner of safety, whether it's fire or sharp objects or riding a bicycle? What are the parts of their body which are private, and who's not allowed to touch those, and who's not allowed to show those, or who's not allowed to ask those? Those are safety questions and conversations, and we want to be able to provide those resources to parents so that they can have these conversations easier.
So what's happening in April, community education and outreach?
Yeah, so April, since 1983, has in the United States been National Child Abuse Prevention Month. And so throughout this month, we've been partnering with a lot of organizations across the Cape and the Islands to really spread that awareness of child abuse issues, to bring it to the forefront, to have this being a conversation, that we can have prevention, we can prevent child sexual abuse. So we've been partnering with a lot of libraries across the Cape and the Islands to put on displays. We partnered with 8 Cousins Bookshop in Falmouth, as well as feedback from librarians and Early Learning Network staff on what are some books that parents could perhaps read with their children that aren't, way over the top. They don't dive into really sensitive subjects, but how to give children the tools to speak up, to use their voice, to recognize that they have body autonomy, that they can tell people no, that they know that they can report things that don't feel good. So we're getting that information out there across the community, partnering with the Steamship Authority, where our new Rainbow Letter campaign is displayed pretty prominently, getting those out into the community at libraries. We're also, have our Teen Task Force program going at Mashpee Middle High School, and they're going to be doing awareness campaign throughout the month. So we're pretty busy getting the word out this month.
Tell me a little bit about how Children's Cove can be a resource for the community and for parents specifically? Do you have a website?
Absolutely. So childrenscove.org, childrenscove.org. We have information there for kids, for teens, and for parents. Information for general community members. We have specific sections that has all of that information there. If anybody would like an education session or a training program for their professional business that works with children, you can request a training there online. It'll come directly to me, and we can start that ball rolling. We also encourage anybody to call us. I wanted to step back as well as all of our services here at Children's Cove are free. As a Barnstable County organization, we're here to provide these supportive services to all of the children and families across the Cape and the Islands. So all of our trainings and education is free. Us as a resource is free. And so we want people to reach out. If you have questions, give us a call. If you have concerns, call us. We can talk through those issues, those concerns with you. It doesn't mean that it's going to go right to law enforcement and it's going to be reported. Sometimes I feel people are concerned that if they call us that's going to automatically turn into a police report. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the case. It might not be to that level, but we can at least talk about it and find those supportive supports and resources that are in the community to build that bridge.
Excellent. Anything that you want the citizens of Barnstable to know before we end?
Child sexual abuse is an adult problem. We have a tremendous opportunity to change the dialogue around child sexual abuse so that this isn't a taboo conversation anymore. We can make a difference by having conversations with all of our children early, often, about body safety, about reporting anything that seems uncomfortable, making sure that every child has 3 trusted adults that they can go and speak to, that if anything happens, they can go and talk to them and get help. We can change this. We can make a difference. And if anything, call us. We'll always be here for resources and supports for anybody across the Cape and the Islands.
Thank you so much, Jacob.
Thank you.
So here at Children's Cove, tell me a little bit about what a child advocate does.
Sure. So in my role, I am part of the multidisciplinary team that responds to all of the cases that walk through our doors. So I'm providing direct support from the moment the family walks through our front door. My office is the first one on the left when you walk in. I'm greeting the family, making sure they have everything they need when they walk through. And I'm walking them through the process that's about to happen. A lot of times families don't know exactly what's going to happen until they get here. So I'm really that first and continuous person that they meet throughout the journey through Children's Cove. I'm part of that multidisciplinary team, so what we do is we get the family situated in one of our waiting rooms, but mostly our downstairs waiting room right outside where the child will be interviewed. I'll make sure that they have everything they need. Those kind of immediate needs are met, water, coffee, any of those things, and then walk them through the process step by step. I'm also part of the team that watches the interview behind the mirror just to kind of gauge families' needs and how we can assist going forward. And I'm also in touch with the family up to a year or more out just to check in over time as those needs may change over time.
So throughout that year afterwards of these forensic interviews, there's a letter that you received. Tell us a little bit about the Rainbow Letter.
Sure. The Rainbow Letter, it was kind of born out of a letter that I received from a child and her family. I also received a typed email with a similar letter by her mom. And the letter that we received was, as you'll see, written in every color of the rainbow. She really took time to kind of write each individual word in pencil first and then every color of the rainbow. She reflected on her experience as a child, through a child's eyes, of what it was like to go to Children's Cove when she first disclosed to her parents, and what the process was like for her. She was 11 years old when she hand-delivered me the letter, but she had come through when she was about 9 years old and had gone through the entire process and was able to pretty much turn this into something that she was reflecting on, that she was happy because she felt brave and that she stood up and found her voice here. And so she was really able to reflect that in the letter. So we were able to work with her and her family to create this campaign based solely on her letter. And now it is being recognized during April, which is Child Abuse Prevention Month.
So we hear this reoccurring theme of giving the child the voice. As an advocate, what are some of the things that you would help parents understand about giving that child a voice?
Sure. I mean, right from the minute that they walk through, it is about that child when they come here. So I'm walking the family through the forensic interview process, which is often the first time the child is actually having a voice about what happened to them. So I'm walking them through what that process will look like, how important it is for us to listen to kids about what has happened to them. And then going forward, different cases in particular do go through that criminal justice process. And because of oftentimes the courage that the kids are able to find coming through the Child Advocacy Center, they are then able to testify in court. It's not for every child, but sometimes that is empowering them to use their voice again and again.
There's a lot of talk about parents and how they can help the child find their voice, but your letter campaign really looks like it's geared towards the child. Tell us a little bit of how this campaign is going to help children find their voice.
Sure. So like you said, we do have a lot of different campaigns and conversations with parents, but we really wanted to figure out a way to capture children's attention on these things because they are the ones that we're really focusing on here and finding their voices, getting support and help for what may have happened to them. So this campaign felt like a perfect opportunity to see through a child's eyes and to be able to put that into the community to help other children see that they can be believed, they can be supported, that they can get help, and that they can go on to be happy and brave just like the child in the letter.
Right. This letter is in rainbow colors, looks like markers. Is that the design? Obviously, this is how it came to you, but that campaign itself, is that what's going to capture the child's attention to read that letter?
Yes, we do think, it's in a child's handwriting directly from her pen to paper, and really just having a message. The messaging around the campaign as well is, do you need help? Has something like this happened to you? You're not alone. You can get help. We're here for you. So all of those things, all of those buzzwords that kids may pick up on, that, oh, like I'm not the only kid that this has happened to, and I can be believed and supported and get help.
And as a child advocate, you say you're working with a team. What is that role of the whole team? Do you discuss things as they're happening real time behind that mirror, or is there meetings afterwards to coordinate services for the child after they've disclosed?
Sure, absolutely. We work as a cohesive team. Before, during, and after the interview, we're having conversations about what the child has in place already for services, how we can meet the gap of services, who's already working with the child, and how we can contact them and have releases signed so that we can communicate after the forensic interview. As the advocate, I'm working directly with the DA's office with that child and family if the case does go to a criminal justice phase. If it doesn't, I'm still in touch with that family up to a year out, so I can answer any questions that they may have about other processes that they may have to go through as a result of this. Restraining orders, any different type of advocacy-related needs, that would be something that I would help the family walk through every step of the way.
And are there differences in your position as an advocate from, say, a 2 or 3 year old to an 11-year-old to, say, a 16-year-old? Are there different needs for those childs as in your job as an advocate?
Yeah, so I would say that my role stays the same, but the needs are different. So I'm checking in with every single family up to a year or more out. It's really up to the family how long they want me to stay in touch with them. I have families that are in touch a lot early on and then may kind of be okay and doing well, but then something may come up, and then they always know that it's kind of an open door, open phone policy, even if it's beyond that 1 year. So families know that they can reach out to me, and yes, it does look different for younger kids rather than older kids, but also they know that if that child gets older and they want those type of resources, they can reach out back to us no matter how long has passed.
Is there anything that you want residents of Barnstable to know about that process, that advocacy process?
Sure. I think what we cherish as an agency, that we're here to contribute to the healthiest outcome of the child and family. So if that means, those more technical supports and services like counseling and medical assistance or maybe even a restraining order at the court or the case going forward in some type of way. But we're also looking at that healthiest outcome in the form of maybe summer camps, maybe getting the children involved in something as a family with their family, and always contributing to that healthiest outcome for both the child and the entire family.
Thank you so much. One very tall utility pole, a dedicated line crew from Eversource, electricians, carpenters, facility staff, and the IT department from Barnstable Public Schools, and classrooms of very excited Centerville Elementary students. Add the watchful eye of Natural Resource Officer Chris Nappy to the mix, and Channel 18 on hand to record the momentous occasion makes a story of community and collaboration come to life. So many signs of summer in the town of Barnstable. With me today, Chris Nappy. We're at Centerville Elementary School and a brand new stand for Osprey. Eversource came in and donated the pole. Tell us a little bit about what happened.
Yeah, it's actually a great thing that we got here today. So the school approached me a few months ago about the need for an osprey nest here at the school because the birds continually try to nest on the school's chimney, and they were concerned about it because the nest, had to keep on being removed. So we started working together to try and place a pole in here, and I approached Eversource because we've put a few other platforms on some other poles, and they were willing to donate this pole and install it for us today, which is awesome.
So the process of installing it was fascinating. Centerville Elementary actually used the opportunity to teach some STEM lessons around this, but there's a camera on there.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to put a camera on there and really get an in-depth look at, inside the nest at an osprey nest, see how the chicks develop over the summer, and see how they interact with each other and with the adults. Yep.
And a lot of the poles that are kind of being replaced, tell us a little bit about what happened last year and why this program was really in full force this year.
Yeah, so we work with Eversource because, osprey like to nest on poles. They like to nest on high things, and they're using utility poles, which obviously can cause concerns because of nest fires. So because there's electricity there, it causes the nest to catch on fire because they're using dry kindling essentially to build their nests. And we are seeing chicks get injured or die from those fires. So to kind of curb that, Eversource is installing platforms next to or on top of poles where they know that ospreys like to come back to, because they'll continue to come back to the same spot. But by putting in poles in other spots, they're also hoping that it'll keep them from using the utility poles too. So
right. Tell us some of the locations that some of these poles have gone into this year.
Yeah, so we've put some platforms on utility poles in the Centerville River, right by Craigville Beach, on Short Beach Road at the end on a utility pole there, and Marston's Mills next to Mill Pond on 149, and also in the Crosby Yacht Yard, right in the middle of their yacht yard, because we had an actual fire on a pole there last year. So
right. And you were telling me that the Audubon actually tracks the osprey.
Yeah, so Audubon, their coastal waterbirds and their program, they manage all the osprey nests, all on Cape Cod. So they're in charge of kind of tracking how successful the nests are and where the ospreys are using. So it's a great story. Yeah.
Right. So most of the classrooms came out at the end of this as the pole went into the ground. As a natural resource officer, why is it important to introduce kids to the environment and to these species really young?
Yeah, it's really cool to see how the school's involving the kids and keeping them informed and using those STEM programs to get the next generation of scientists and kids that want to really be invested in observing and kind of staying with out here on the Cape and just being involved in it. It's great.
Excellent. Yeah. Anything that you want people to know? Ospreys are actually landing on Cape Cod as we speak. Anything that people should be aware of?
Yeah, the osprey are showing up. So just if you're out there, just be aware. They're great to watch. They're fish eaters. You know, they only eat fish. So once they start showing up, you know that the fish are going to start showing up too. And it's just great to see. They're really easy to observe and a lot of fun to watch. So
Right. One thing that we wanted to mention too is there's a couple of flip-flops on that pole. Why?
Yeah. So the two teachers that are involved in this project, they wanted to put some flip-flops up there because, you know, ospreys, they're really opportunistic in what they choose to use for their nesting material. They're beach scavengers, so they'll pick up flip-flops, they'll pick up little scraps of just about anything to use as nesting material. So the teachers wanted to use two of their flip-flops to, you know, kind of get their nest started.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
Welcome home, Osprey. Up next, things to do, places to go, and people to meet. This year's Housing Assistance Corporation Big Fix-a-thon will be in the town of Barnstable on Saturday, October 5th. This day of fundraising and community service celebrates its 10th anniversary by returning to the town of Barnstable, where it all started in 2010. Housing assistance volunteers will help raise funds to strengthen our housing programs while donating a few hours this fall to make small home improvements for income-eligible veterans, seniors, and disabled homeowners in this Mid-Cape community. Join our Big Fix-a-thon kickoff this Tuesday, April 30th at the Shepley Showcase, 75 Ben Franklin Way in Hyannis, to learn how you can support this impactful day of service. Comments, suggestions, accolades? Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Email us or send us an old-fashioned note by carrier pigeon. Channel 18 works. For you, I'm Paula Hersey, and thank you for watching Barnstable Today.